Get ready for a story that will leave you speechless. In the world of adultery and the drama of fate, there is no room for mercy. I entered the room and found my wife with a friend. Their faces expressed shock and fear, and my eyes reflected rage and frustration. My heart tore into pieces, and the world I thought was my own crumbled before my eyes. Instead of promises and excuses, my wife begged for mercy. In this video, I will tell you the amazing story of infidelity, where every step leads to unpredictable consequences and fate plays its dangerous game. Are you ready to embark on this journey where emotions break down masks and secrets become naked? Welcome to the amazing stories of betrayal, where every moment presents us with difficult choices and fate dictates its laws. And we begin. With Michael, we were just acquainted, not friends or even comrades. We met by chance. I helped him out once. Yes, it happens that way. His car broke down in the suburbs, and, as luck would have it, his phone ran out of juice. He desperately voted, asking for help. But no one stopped. I was the only one who stopped. We hooked up his car on a so-called tie, and I dragged his car all the way home. After which Michael took my phone number and promised to thank me, and from the bottom of his heart, as he said. He did not cheat, did as I promised. He called me a week later and invited me to a small but charming restaurant. As it turned out later, this restaurant belonged to him. We had a very good time. We drank expensive cognac, and the food was exquisite. Long talked about life, and here, having learned that I have pair of the auto repair shops, Michael has declared that itself and will be repaired at me and familiar to the friends too will recommend. In general, and so it began. I met with him occasionally. He came by occasionally for diagnostics or preventive maintenance. One day, Michael called me and invited me to his birthday. Naturally, the birthday was celebrated in his restaurant. I decided to go. Fortunately, my wife was away on a week-long business trip. Wow, those business trips. Before she had no such occasions, and then 2 years ago promoted her at work. That's why the poor guy had to travel. And the most frustrating thing was that she couldn't plan anything. Business trips were spontaneous. Sometimes I would be fine in the morning, but then my wife would call at lunchtime and say that either tonight or tomorrow morning she would be leaving. These business trips, though, had their upside. After them, the relationship with my wife came alive in sex. The relationship was already tenderly loving, but after the business trips brought some trepidation. We just wanted to hold hands and whisper words of love and tenderness to each other. And of course, lots of other lovey-dovey stuff. The only annoying thing was that business trips became either more frequent or longer. If she used to go every 6 weeks or 2 months, now she could go twice a month or 2 weeks at once. So, back to the story. On the day of the celebration, Michael said he was going to introduce me to his woman. He said she was the most beautiful woman he had ever met. But the trouble was, she was married. Husband's a freak. He's not much of a man, and they haven't slept together for a long time. He drinks, and once even tried to raise his hand against her, the bastard. They have no children because the man is terminally ill. But she's still hesitant to leave him. She says she feels sorry for him. But Michael decided that he would insist because they love each other. Especially since his wife promised to give Michael a son. I also joked that it was a coincidence that my wife's name was Svetlana too. Svetlana came 40 minutes later after the start of the celebration. When she came in, my heart sank in my heels. And literally, Michael's favorite woman, as you may have already guessed, was my favorite wife. The beautiful yellow dress, her favorite color by the way, sat perfectly on her lovely figure. The discreet mocha, the stiletto shoes. She was beautiful, truly beautiful. Apparently, she decided to go out with her lover for the first time. Because Michael immediately began introducing her to his best friends and colleagues in the restaurant business. I, on the other hand, stealthily left for the bathroom. Hot resentment was burning me from the inside. And what she said about me to her lover, yes. Especially since we have 2 children, a boy and a girl. That didn't make sense at all in my head. I probably managed to avoid seeing the birthday boy with his chosen one for an hour. I watched my wife having fun, accepting the compliments of other men and wooing Michael. And then I stood up at the table and proclaimed a toast. Something like a toast to the host and hostess of the party. I saw my wife first blush and then turn dramatically pale. She jumped up from the table and ran out of the restaurant with all the speed her shoes would allow. Michael rushed after her. What happened then? I don't know. I left the restaurant through the kitchen and the back room. I don't know why I decided to hide. Whatever. I got home, got a bottle of Finnish vodka, sat down in the kitchen and waited. My wife arrived 2 hours later. She had no makeup on, and from that she was on a business trip. A conversation with her never got off the ground. Neither that day, nor the next. My wife followed me around like she was tied up, crying and repeating sorry, sorry, sorry. I had to move out of the house because it was unbearable. Not seeing my wife, not hearing her cries, and this sorry, sorry, sorry. She called all the time. I had to disconnect the phone first, and then I had to change the number. I filed for divorce, notifying my wife through my mother-in-law. In court, she cried and refused to divorce. I willingly divided everything in half, the business, the apartment, and the acquired property too. Of course, our humane court left my children to my wife. She does not prevent me from seeing them. Why did she do that? Honestly, I don't know, and I don't want to know. It's been over a year, and my wife, already an ex-wife, I still can't get used to it. They still try to talk to me as before. As soon as one of our mutual acquaintances tries to start a conversation about her, I politely ask them to change the subject. Of the old relationships, the only ones I care about are the children. In law, the death penalty awaits traitors and traitors to the motherland. Cheating in a relationship has no consequences for the cheating party. It is the cheater and the children who suffer. Children suffer the most. It's not their fault that one parent wanted something for themselves personally. I think this also applies to personal space in a relationship, which nobody knows where it came from, and nobody knows who made it up and for what. And now on to the second story. I warn you, this story is not for the faint of heart. A betrayal happened in my life that shattered all my beliefs and my usual order of things. I was on the verge of madness, and the decision I made shocked my surroundings. After finding out about my wife's cheating, I couldn't find room for my anger and frustration. And then I made a decision that changed everything. I wiped her in the dust and didn't regret it for a second. In this video, I will open the door for you to a world of amazing cheating stories, where the boundaries of morality and justice are erased and the dramas of fate reach their climax. Are you ready to embark on this journey where the darker sides of our nature come to the surface? Prepare to be immersed in a story where revenge and ruthlessness become the protagonists and fate plays its dark melody. Welcome to the amazing stories of cheating on your wife, where the lines between truth and lies are blurred and the consequences are irreversible. Hi everyone, I'll get right to the point. Anyway, I met her 4 years ago on a business trip to another country, in Kazakhstan. I remember that I fell in love at first sight. The couple of days we spent together were the happiest of my life. There were fears that it was difficult to date at a distance, that we didn't know each other well enough, plus the visa issue. In the end, we met in Moscow. I proposed, but she was not ready to answer right away. I kept waiting for it and kept pushing her. I suggested that she move or I would move in with her myself, but I had to agree to the marriage, otherwise the move seemed impossible. You can't be in another country for more than 90 days. The relationship began to deteriorate, and we broke up amid disagreements over marriage. 6 months passed. She came to my city for work. Again, I was not able to get any specific actions from her in terms of future. We separated, and after that, we didn't communicate for a year, but I constantly thought about her and admittedly suffered. A year later, she came back and let me know that she wanted a serious relationship with me, wanted to start a family, but we had to get to know each other better. I got excited. I decided that this time I was going to do everything right. I came to Kazakhstan, met my parents, proposed. I didn't get a concrete consent, then I left and invited her to my city. I bought her a ticket and paid for everything. It was a long way, 5,000 kilometers. There I introduced her to my family and proposed again. She agreed to be a bride, but not a wife. It was like a probationary period, and we had to get to know each other better. I took her to Kazakhstan for 3 months, hoping to get married during that time and to stay there. Otherwise, according to the rules, I would have had to go back. Everything was going well when I got there. I rented an apartment, found a job in 2 weeks, worked remotely, got to know her family intimately. But one bad night, there was a conflict. I made a bad joke. She jumped up and ran off in tears through the ring. Then she came back and wanted to break up the next day, but I talked her into giving me another chance. A couple of days later, she forgot her phone at home. And yes, I got into it. Turns out she was having an intimate relationship with her ex that night. He'd been hitting on her, proposing to her. Also, the act itself happened several more times after she came to my town and let me know she wanted to be with me. In fact, she had been in a relationship with her ex-boyfriend and me for several months, including physical intimacy. When I visited, when I left, she was with him. She went to the gynecologist with him to get a checkup. She was getting ready to get pregnant, but she ended up choosing me. It was all very unpleasant and hard to take. She had been seeing him for 6 months or a year at the time we weren't in touch. We talked, and I wanted to forgive her. She said she was confused, that I was driving her around, that I was forcing physical intimacy on her when she didn't want it, that there wasn't enough romance, that I was drinking. And I confess to you that I drank a little, but yes, quite often. At the same time, I never went overboard. We sort of agreed, and I tried not to talk about it, but it was terribly hard. I was constantly nervous, jealous, checking in. We spent a lot of time together, talked to her family all the time. Every day, we thought of some activities like going to the mountains, out of town, fishing. Everyday cafes, restaurants lived a busy life. She didn't cut off communication with her ex to the end. Sometimes, they would call each other and see each other a few times, but I don't think she was cheating anymore. Eventually, it was time for me to leave. I didn't get any certainty from her in terms of marriage and left as the deadline came up. When I got home, I had a lot of problems since I was working 2 jobs. I wasn't making any normal time, not there. Plus, all my energy went to her. I ended up essentially losing both jobs. A huge grudge started developing against my fiancé. Didn't want to communicate for a while. She decided to leave me once again. I went into a serious depression. So much energy went into all of this. The money I collected for repairs was wasted there. I had been cheated on, wasted going back and forth, wasted introducing myself to my parents, wasted giving her a ring. And a kind of hatred and resentment against her began to mature, even though I used to be ready to blow off the pilling. Why was I being treated so cruelly when I really loved the woman and just wanted to be together? I don't know. A few months went by, I was able to earn money, made repairs to my apartment, had to live with my parents. I also found a normal job. And then she shows up again and wants to hang out. That time the communication didn't work out. I insulted her. I remembered everything. My mental state was complicated. I had always thought about her every day since the day I met her. I had conversations, got hung up. When a negative situation happened, got hung up on that negativity and went over everything in my head, many, many times. Then things developed even worse. I wanted to take revenge on her and destroy her reputation. I told everyone I could reach about her actions, adultery, all the negativity, including her parents, whom I loved very much. I created fake accounts for my colleagues, friends, and partners, and ended up spreading the information everywhere. It didn't make me feel much better, but I got a sense of justice or something. After all, I was always the victim. Now she is the victim. She, as well as her parents, naturally do not want to talk to me after all this. She has blocked me everywhere, does not answer, and tries to forget me. I have strange feelings in me. On the one hand, I love her. There are many things that make me insanely happy about her and make me happy when I'm around her. I feel like a dog who has seen his master and is wagging his tail. I like the person. She's generally nice, but just not with me. Lots of noble qualities. I would be happy if it wasn't for the suffering, the actions that hurt me. You can't love and not be angry at someone who has caused you so much suffering, who has left, betrayed, cheated, probably my fault in many ways. I admit it. I want to either forget her or be together. But I think that's hard to forgive, even though I forgave the cheating and betrayal because I loved her. I always wanted to be there for her. I don't think she will forgive me this shame. What do you think? She said as she loved me, but I destroyed her feelings by my actions. I think she cares for me. She thinks I do. I can feel it. Plus the great distance that separates us. I would be grateful for your advice. Dear listeners, I thank you for watching this video and listening carefully to the story. And you can thank me for my work for you very simply. Sign up for the channel, like this video, and that's it. It really helps us to grow, develop, and attract new audiences. Thank you in advance. Please take care of yourself and your loved ones. No farewell, and see you soon.